There's other news we're watching here in the Situation Room. Jaws dropped across the country when people learned the heartbreaking and well-publicized death of a college football star's girlfriend. They learned that it never happened and the girlfriend never even existed. Notre Dame's Manti Te'o says he was the victim of a sick joke, but as more details now emerge about this hoax, more questions are now being asked. And as Ted Rollins is joining us from South Bend, Indiana, where Notre Dame's campus is. What is the very latest, Ted, that you're getting?
Well, Wolf, frankly, there was a lot of anticipation that Manti Te'o would break his silence and go public with his side of the story today. However, as far as we are now, he has said nothing. This Twitter photo is Manti Te'o at the IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida, where he's training for the NFL draft and likely also taking refuge. Pressure continues to mount for Te'o to explain the inconsistencies between the very public love story of his fake girlfriend and the statement claiming he'd never actually met her. During the football season, the story of the star linebacker enduring the death of his girlfriend and grandmother on the same day transcended sports. People from around the world were touched by how in love Te'o seemed to be with Ronaiah, the girl he called his soulmate.
I cried, I yelled. I've never felt that way before. This is 6 hours ago. I just found out Grandma passed away, and you take, the love of my life.
On the day of his girlfriend's supposed funeral, Te'o played football, and after the game, Notre Dame's football coach Brian Kelly actually awarded the game ball to the girl we now know doesn't exist.
I want to award this game ball to Ronaiah, and I'd like Manti to have this ball to take back to Hawaii.
I'm as confused as I think a lot of people are right now.
Sports reporter Eric Hansen has spent the last 4 years writing about Manti Te'o for the South Bend Tribune. In October, he wrote this article detailing the couple's first meeting after a football game against Stanford.
Well, I would think if there was a mistake in the story, they would have brought it to my attention.
The story has romantic details of Te'o and his fictitious girlfriend catching each other's eye and making a connection. Hansen says he got the story from Te'o's father. He still has a recording of the interview.
Maybe Manti, being an online relationship, was maybe a little embarrassed and embellished the story to his father a little bit, and his father was telling what Manti had told him.
He allowed us to listen to the recording, but won't allow us to broadcast it. Clearly, the father thinks his son met his girlfriend face-to-face in 2009 and spent considerable time with her face-to-face after that.
I want to give them the benefit of the doubt at this point, and I want to hear from them before I form the last picture on this.
Wolf, at one point today, ESPN tweeted that they were about ready to sit down for an interview with Manti Te'o. They then, a few hours later, tweeted that the interview had been canceled. A lot of questions still for Manti Te'o when and if he decides to come public.
But even as you and I speak right now, Notre Dame University, they are sticking by Manti Te'o. Is that right?
Absolutely. The athletic director here said he sat down with him for an hour and a half in one session, then another session the next day. He said after listening to this young man, he absolutely believes that he was nothing more than a victim.
What a story. Much more in this story coming up later here in the Situation Room. Ted, thank you. The mysterious, bizarre hoax surrounding the Notre Dame football star Manti Te'o seems to be getting more difficult to piece together. At the center of it all, the woman he called, quote, the love of my life, who apparently never existed. Her supposed death in September, along with the death of his grandmother around that same time, is what Te'o said inspired him to lead his team to victory in a critical game. On September 13th, he tweeted this about her, and let me read it. I may not hear your voice anymore, but I do feel your presence. According to Notre Dame, on December 6th, Te'o received a phone call from her number saying she wasn't dead. On December 26th, he's said to have notified the school of the situation. Notre Dame launched an investigation. And yesterday, Deadspin.com published a story for the first time revealing the hoax. Let's get straight to our own Brian Todd. He's been digging deeper into what is going on right now. Brian, you're getting some more information?
We are, Wolf. You know, Deadspin named one man in particular who it says is behind this. He is based in Southern California. With our teams here in Washington, in Los Angeles, and in Atlanta, we did get some information on him, but it is not clear at the moment if he knows Manti Te'o or not. It was a hoax made all the more believable by his hushed, mournful interviews, like the one he gave ESPN.
You know, I cried, I yelled. I never felt that way before. This is 6 hours ago. I just found out Grandma passed away, and you take, you know, the love of my life. Last thing she said to me was, "I love you."
But Manti Te'o's supposed girlfriend, Ronaiah, who'd reportedly died of leukemia, never existed. Te'o and Notre Dame say he was the victim of this hoax. Who perpetrated it? Deadspin.com, the sports investigative website that broke the story, points to a young man named Ronaiah Tuiasosopo. CNN obtained a yearbook photo of him from 2008 when he was a senior at Paraclete High School in Lancaster, California. Deadspin, citing friends and relatives of Tuiasosopo's, says he created the girlfriend and spread the myth online.
They told us that he has been doing the Ronaiah Te'o fake online profile for several years, and that he's caught other people in its trap, but that they caught on way earlier than Manti Te'o did.
CNN cannot confirm Tuiasosopo's involvement. We went to addresses, called numbers in Southern California listed for Ronaiah Tuiasosopo, and could not reach him. We caught up with Tuiasosopo's father, Titus, a former football player at USC and now a pastor at a place called the Oasis Christian Church of the Antelope. He wouldn't speak on camera, but told us the truth will all come out. God knows our character. Ronaiah Tuiasosopo's uncle, who gave us these pictures of him as a child, tells us Tuiasosopo is religious and plays in a band at his father's church.
It's hard for me because I know the kid all his life. And this is the first time I heard something like that.
Deadspin says Tuiasosopo and Manti Te'o know each other. Notre Dame's athletic director, who hired investigators in this case, was asked if they're cousins or family friends.
That characterization does not square with my information, but I'll let the Te'os address it.
We could not reach Manti Te'o, his parents, or his agent for comment. Tuiasosopo is a former player himself, seen here as a quarterback at Antelope Valley High School. He's got relatives who've played college and pro football. I spoke on the phone with Marcus Tuiasosopo, a former quarterback for the Oakland Raiders and the New York Jets. Marcus said he's a distant cousin of Ronaiah Tuiasosopo. Marcus didn't want to tape an interview. He said he can't say anything about this story, doesn't know Ronaiah well. But Marcus did say that he and his family know the Te'o family. Who is the woman depicted in social media photos as Manti Te'o's girlfriend? A woman we contacted, whose name we're not airing, says she realized her picture had been used for a fake Facebook page for Te'o's girlfriend. That woman told CNN she knows Ronaiah Tuiasosopo through church, but says she is shocked to find out that he might be involved in this. Wolf.
And there's a current NFL football player who supposedly says he knew this non-existent girlfriend?
Yeah, making the story even more bizarre when you think it couldn't be anymore. A man named Reagan Mauya, he's a fullback for the Arizona Cardinals. He told ESPN that Ronaiah Te'o is a real person, that he met her before she knew Manti Te'o, and that they became friends. Now, we have called Reagan Mauya today, and he has not returned our calls.
What a bizarre story indeed.
Sure
we're going to have more on this coming up. A lot of people are talking about it, Brian. Thanks very much. The bizarre hoax involving the Notre Dame football star Manti Te'o. Here's what the Notre Dame Athletic Director said about it. Listen to this.
I think as Manti tells his story, you'll see the same thing I saw, that it does fully line up.
Let's talk about it with the host of CNN's Reliable Sources, Howard Kurtz. He's the Washington bureau chief for Newsweek and the Daily Beast. Also joining us, the editor-in-chief of thedailydownload.com. That would be Lauren Ashburn. Guys, thanks very much for coming in. Howie, there's a problem here because for months and months and months, the media bought this story apparently without checking who this woman was.
This was a feel-good story, even though it involved a tragic death. It was inspiring, and it was completely and totally false. And even a basic couple of phone calls, Wolf, would have discovered the fact that the imaginary girlfriend didn't go to Stanford. There was no record of the car crash. There was no record of her death. There was no record of her birth. But nobody seemed to want to make that minimal effort.
It was such a beautiful story to hear it, an emotional, warm story that people just said, great, let's go with it.
I think it was media journalism 101 fail. As Howie said, people didn't check the facts, especially when there had been previous accounts, and you could go back and say, well, gosh, she died this day. No, she died here. No, she died. All you had to look is the evidence. And what's really critical here, Wolf, is that the Twitter accounts and the Facebook accounts and all of that, had someone been reporting, social media reporting, I think
as Deadspin eventually did.
Eventually did yesterday. I think we would have figured this out a long time ago.
Deadspin, they say they started to investigate last week because somebody sent them an email saying you should take a look at this, and it didn't take very long for them to find out this woman didn't exist.
Now, the reporter who wrote the cover story for Sports Illustrated, Wolf, does say that he had a number of red flags, that he got detailed accounts about the imaginary girlfriend from Manti Te'o himself, from the guy's father, from people on the campus, and that he couldn't find in the Nexus database search basic facts about her life or even that she existed. But, you know, when you're reporting on a story, the guy says his girlfriend just died, everybody's upset about it. I guess he just kind of waved those away.
Let me read, Lauren, a line or two from the article, Sports Illustrated, October 1st, 2012, entitled The Full Manti. Te'o had dated Ronaiah Kekua, 22, for nearly a year. She'd been hospitalized in California since an April 28th car accident left her on the brink of death. 2 months after the accident, as she began to recover from her injuries, doctors discovered that she had leukemia and sent her to a new hospital with another daunting health issue. Her relatives told him that at her lowest points, as she fought to emerge from a coma, her breathing rate would increase at the sound of his voice. Now, that's pretty detailed stuff in there.
It is, and there is a lot of detail, excruciating detail. It seems to me that you would have to think Manti would have to be involved or know something about this. It just doesn't add up.
Right. He's having all these nighttime phone conversations, allegedly, with a woman who we now know doesn't exist. So he bears some responsibility here. And Notre Dame officials say, by their own account, they knew about this last December 26th. They allowed some of these other media accounts to go forward as Notre Dame went into the bowl season. That is shameful that they didn't worry about...
They said they wanted to do a full investigation before they released the public information. They wanted to make sure that there was nothing he did that could be, they were standing completely behind this football star.
It smells to me like Notre Dame was covering its collective backside and didn't want to interfere with what was a very good storyline for the university.
But the bottom line in this is that we are all rushing to get things on the air, to get things into newspapers. And I think that journalists rely a lot on what is already printed, what is already in and on the internet. And they say, well, if it was vetted by the New York Times or if it was vetted by Sports Illustrated, it must be true.
Let me put this up on the screen. This is from the writer from Sports Illustrated. In retrospect, there were some red flags. When I checked LexisNexis to find out more about Kekua, I couldn't find anything, though that's not uncommon for a college-age student. Nor was there anything on her supposed twin brother, I believe it's pronounced Koa. I was unable to track down any obituaries or funeral notices, but that might be explained by the fact that she had 3 recent places she called home or by her family not wanting publicity.
He was rationalizing, and I give him credit for doing this mea culpa. He was rationalizing about the fact that even though he couldn't verify this woman's existence, that Sports Illustrated published a cover story. I just want to emphasize, Wolf, you didn't need a Bob Woodward investigative team here. Basic reporting, basic phone calls, checking with Stanford, looking at why there was no car accident.
He did check with Stanford.
Okay,
and Stanford said, well,
we don't have any record, we can't find her.
And then he thought, well, maybe she didn't graduate, so he took Stanford out.
Pete Thamel did, others didn't. This was, as you say, a collective failure on the part of the media that I think just liked this story, and now everybody looks bad.
He put out a statement, a written statement, but we're waiting for him to go before cameras, either in an interview or a news conference, and explain what's going on. What do you think the bottom line is going to be?
I mean, my gut on this, you look at all of the evidence and you look at how it was all presented, all of the differences in opinion and in time and who she was and all of the Twitter and the Facebook.
Yeah.
It seems to me that there is something bigger going on
here.
It
strains credulity to me to think that he was solely the victim of a hoax. And maybe we'll find out differently, but right now it is hard to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Guys, thanks very much for coming in.